I'm currently looking for a place with better lighting. I was originally going to go outside today, but considering it's cloudy, there's a 90% chance of rain, and now my neighbors are mowing the lawn. We're going to save that for another day. So anyways, protests. There's been quite a lot lately against Trump, ICE, many different policies, war, and for more transparency. Some are peaceful while others have turned violent, but they all have a purpose and end goal they're trying to achieve. And today we're going to see if protests are more than not successful in that goal or if they're just all a huge waste of time. And at the end we'll also see what makes the perfect protest. Okay, so to define success, a protest should help shift public opinion towards their cause, get media coverage, and have a positive response from the target audience, whether that be to gain more support and acceptance or to create policy changes. That's at least what you may think, but it's actually not true, even if that's what the organizers intended. A study from Harvard suggests that the true impact from protests comes from making the attendees more politically motivated, thus leading them to vote more. If you wanted to stretch it a bit further, it shows others that there's people out there like them who feel the same way, who are willing to put their lives on the line on some cases. This can motivate them to be more politically active, leading to reform later on. This was the biggest surprise for me, and it makes a lot of sense. Even with mass demonstrations, policy changes can take a really long time, and that would be because the movement probably failed to change the minds of people who are already in office. Instead, it takes these newly motivated citizens to vote on what they believe in is right. The biggest problem here is if you live in a country with very little voting, especially if policymakers don't rely on your votes to stay in office. A good example of this would be activists like Alexei Navalny in Russia. He led a major protest against corruption and authoritarianism. Despite a massive turnout, reforms largely failed because elections are tightly controlled in Russia. In cases of protests that did succeed in repressive states, the outcome was often a result of the government stepping down or being forced to negotiate due to overwhelming public pressure, not because the existing government changed their views. But that's also a very narrow way to look at success. Sure, you have the perfect examples of success, like the campaign against racial segregation in Birmingham, Alabama, that led Martin Luther King to write a letter from the Birmingham jail and was arguably the catalyst to the 1964 Civil Rights Act. But on the other hand, you have China's Tiananmen Square in 1989. They never achieved what they set out to do, and possibly thousands died as a result, but still they remain a powerful symbol of resistance and inspire future generations of activists. I mean, just look at this picture, a single man stopping an entire line of tanks. That is pretty cool. So to give you a concrete answer whether protests help or not, I would say they absolutely do. A protest working isn't a fail or succeed answer. As seen in China, you can fail miserably and still inspire others in the future. I would consider that a success. Now, with this new knowledge, let's take a look at what makes the perfect protest. First off, whether the protest should be non-violent or violent, non-violence almost always wins out. When a protest turns violent, many people turn their heads from the movement. Remember those people who believe the same thing as you but are just not motivated to vote is your golden audience. They're the easiest to convince, so to lose them almost always means failure. Second, numbers matter. Again, the people in the protest are the ones who are going to enact change. Anyone who's motivated enough to stand in the hot sun for hours will almost certainly vote when it comes time to it. Third, diversity also matters, both demographically and societal. The more groups you can include, the more likely others will share the same views and get motivated to join the vote. And finally, media coverage. It's one of the biggest reasons the civil rights movement succeeded, and it's no different today. It is also the most important for those who live in a repressive state. International media coverage can persuade other governments to create sanctions or just condemn the opposed government, further pressuring them to enact change or step down. I hope you're able to use this information in the future because your silence gives consent, and sometimes if you don't believe in something, you just have to pick up a sign and start yelling down the street. I had a lot of fun writing this video. I really didn't know any of this going in. I had actually started writing the script only to research, delete it all, and restart. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll see you guys again next week.